Right
Great.
on.
Oh, Nav, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you. Thank you. So Nav says was doing too mad, 2 meals a day. My first meal, I cannot eat a lot for some reason. In my second meal, I can eat a lot more. Now I'm doing 1 meal a day and I eat like the same amount as the first meal, like if I was doing 2 meals a day. So not a lot of food. Is this problematic? So what he's saying here, I'll break it down. He wants to know if it's problematic if he just ate 1 meal a day and only the amount that he typically would eat in his first meal of a 2 MAD day. So that's really like a third of what he's eating for his OMAD. That's what are your thoughts, Raymond? You go first.
Yeah, so I want to say there's a little trick on that. So, most of the time it's all about the eating window. So on the 2 MAD, usually I hear a lot of people eating big first and the second meal smaller. So it's interesting that you're reversed. What it is that if you want an OMAD to be successful, you can give 1 to 2 hours of block of window. So you can have 2 meals during that time if you feel like you're not eating enough. And the question I would have is, how do you know you're eating enough? Are you feeling sluggish? Are you feeling low energy? Are you feeling moody? All of those are signs that you're not eating enough. There's a lot more, but I'll just go with the basics. And the answer to that, if you want to keep OMAD for long term, and that's your objective, then have it in a window of time. I recommend 1 hour to 2 hours.
So you're saying within that 1 hour, or if they choose to do 2 hour eating window, they can just eat all throughout the 2 hours?
You can do, that's another great answer. But you could have like the meal at the top of the hour, at the bottom of the hour, have your second meal, and if you know you're eating the second meal bigger, then that's what you got.
Yep. Love it. Anyone else want to give thoughts for Nav?
Well, I had to just force it down for about 2 months, and they were right. I knew what they meant by saying "eat until you hate Raymond." I had to do that, but it did work. It did work in spades actually. After 2 months, and then I went from eating 1.25 pounds to 1.5 pounds of meat a day to eating 7 pounds of meat a day, which is crazy still to think about. And it worked, and my appetite opened up, and that's when things healed. So. I definitely, and now since doing the priming and going through kind of the priming boot camp, I've reused that several times to boost my metabolism when it was getting a little low from too much fasting, and it's worked every time. But it's hard work every time too. Eating when you don't want to eat, getting up early, eating, not feeling hungry for a few weeks at a time is kind of rough. But it definitely has worked for me. So I would say hang in there because it does get better,
Yeah. I would love to share that, Nav, since you're a guy. I feel like when it comes to OMADs and she's a female and she's asking about, is OMAD going to work for me? Is OMAD going to get me to my weight loss? I always feel a little bit more hesitant to recommend OMADs for females versus males because female hormones are just different than male hormones. And we do have to prioritize eating enough and eating plenty of fat much more than a typical man on a carnivore diet. Obviously, it's going to depend person to person, right? What are you trying to heal? What is your history? But if you were a female, then I would definitely say, look, you really have to make sure you are truly eating enough and eating enough fat, not just protein, during your OMADs, especially if you're trying to do OMAD for a long stretch of time. And I'm speaking from experience. There was a period of time where I was eating OMADs for, a long phase. I was loving it. I felt like I was, at my sweetest spot. I figured out what worked for me. It was amazing. And I would just eat 1 meal a day every day. But what tends to happen is you get so comfortable eating 1 meal a day for that long as a woman. You get super productive. You get busy, right? Life gets in the way. And you are actually long term slowly down regulating your metabolism and you don't even know it. And there are signs to look out for. I can go into detail if you guys want, or if you want, Nav, you can just request, but I won't. But that's just something that I have to say for women watching this live stream and considering, oh, I want to do OMAD and I want to do it for a long time. there are things that you do have to worry about that men don't. Thoughts, Raymond? I see you were trying
Totally
to
agree.
interject. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I love that you say that. Actually, even when women do rolling 48s, I really don't recommend that for women. Although alternate day fasting for a certain amount of time works really well for women. So OMAD
Yeah.
seems to be kind of like the limbo, right? It's just enough to eat, but just enough to undereat after a
Mm.
long period of time. So knowing that, you got to strategize it right. Even if you have the trick of doing the 2 hour window, first of all, nobody follows the 2 hour window because they're like, oh, I just want to eat just to get it over with. So they don't give themselves enough time to
That's true.
actually eat. So,
I would
and
never.
because you're right, exactly. You're doing it for consistently. Eventually, you're going to be like, forget that. So
Yeah.
then what happens is you're going to undereat.
So to be honest, I was doing OMAD just for the sake of, wow, I get so much of my life back without having to sit down and eat. So I'm for sure an A-type personality where if I find a hack that can give back time to me or maybe up my productivity or efficiency, mental clarity, I'm all for it. But then as an A-type personality speaking here, it's also that much more susceptible for me to push it. So that's why I always say, look, I love people who love fasting on carnivore. There's not a lot of us here, but it's a double-edged sword for sure. Dr. Phil, any thoughts?
Well,
You're
I
muted.
just think that we
Oh,
get
no,
into
never
trouble
mind.
doing
You're not.
anything for a
What? There's just a
Can
lag.
you not hear me?
We got you
There is
now.
a
There
lag.
was a lag there
Yeah,
for
we're
a
good.
minute.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just think that doing the same thing consistently for any time period can be problematic for most of us. We get into kind of homeostasis of our metabolism. And I'm kind of in the theory to mix it up quite a bit and to do different things to keep your metabolism kind of on the edge a little bit. So we see a lot of people that do OMADs for a long time and they come in, they've stayed stalled for a few months. And one of the first things we do is get them to eat more for the short term. And that seems to help. So, but at the end of the day, people can do what they want to do as long as they're getting results.
I love that. That's so true, is just doing something for way too long. There is the whole logic and truth to keep your body guessing. Like, don't get to a spot where your body knows exactly what you're about to do. You do it every single day. And I'm specifically talking about your fasting schedule, your approach with intermittent fasting. With carnivore, you can be carnivore every single day. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you have to keep it up, switch it up by doing animal based a couple days of the week or keto or add in plants. Not at all. I'm specifically talking about eating window and intermittent fasting.